I can't believe it. It's been a whole year since I released my first game on the iOS App Store. I'm going to talk about the stats, what happened in that last year, then I'll reflect on some of the things I learned, and finally we'll finish the video off with what's next for my game development journey. Let's dive in. Right, as far as the stats go, it's not great. If you look purely at stats, nothing spectacular. I didn't blow up and become a millionaire overnight. In 1 year of release, the game has gotten just over 100 down, of which about 50 of those, or half of them, were in the first week. So those were people that were friends, family, or loyal followers on my limited social media. The rest of those, the other half, have come browsing the App Store or searching for games, or maybe just random promotion through social media. 100 downloads for a free game shows you just how competitive and how hard it is to get people to play your game. People played the game more than once. The average user opened the app a little over 8 times when they did download it. But it was surprisingly difficult to convince people to leave reviews on the App Store. I was really expecting that, friends, family, people that knew me would take that extra step to go and write a review. But throughout the year, of the 102 downloads that the game got, I have only received 10 ratings. Could it have been better? Obviously, right? 100 downloads for 1 year is not going to pay any bills. Just because the game didn't get many downloads, I still don't consider Zeroed a failure. I've talked about this previously, but I want to talk about it again. The biggest thing about Zeroed that makes it not a failure for me is that I released the game. It's the first game that I've made publicly available to anyone, anywhere. It's the first game that has finished art, sound effects, and music. All of this stuff you can't take away. Zeroed will always be that first game that I made. It's the stepping stone to whatever comes next. I think that's where it's really important to put in perspective that this is a success. A lot of people, a lot of creatives never get to that point where they are able to publicly release something. It can take a huge amount of effort to finish a project, and it can take an even larger amount of effort to be vulnerable enough to put that out there to the public and see what will happen, right? I look at it like this. The success is not in the numbers. The success is in the completion of the project and what I've learned along the way. There's a few things that I've learned in this whole process. So the first thing is I definitely learned that I can finish a project. And that's a big thing to learn, right? Once you know that you can do it, then that means that you can't really give yourself the excuse that I can't do this because you've done it. So I know I can release a game, so that means I can make another one. Also think that I learned a lot about how to communicate to potential players. When you're writing a description of your game on the App Store for new features, or when you're trying to write promotional videos or screenshots, like what's interesting, these are things you don't typically do when you're just developing a game by yourself in a room, right? So I learned a lot about that, and I think I can do a much better job in the next game that I make. So I also learned how to manage my code a little bit better, in the sense that throughout the year, I didn't just release a game a year ago and then forget about it. I issued a number of bug fix updates. I issued 2 feature updates. So throughout that time period, I was able to figure out not only how to build additional features and fix bugs, but how to organize my code in a way that made sense and made it adaptable to new features and whatnot. Additionally, I think that and this is a little bit less concrete, but I think that I just got a little bit more confidence about my ability as a developer by having this game out there. It may not be a highly downloaded game, it may not be a huge game, it may not be the perfect game, but it does give me a little bit more confidence to say that, hey, I did this thing. And I think it's important to give yourself these little wins, and I hope that that makes sense to someone out there, and maybe I can inspire someone who's just on the fence to just push a little bit further and release your game. Don't care too much about the numbers or potential negative feedback. Get over that first hurdle, because odds are your next game will be much better than this one that you're working on now. So with that, what is next for me in my game development? Where do I go from here? As you may know, I'm already working on my next game. I've been sharing some of the behind the scenes on this channel. So if you're not subscribed and you're interested in that, get subscribed now so you can see that game come to life in front of you. I'm gonna link the playlist below so that you can start from the beginning if you're curious. So what's the next thing that I can take from this experience and implement into the next game that I make? It's really hard to say for sure what's gonna happen. One of the things that came out of Zeroed was that I kind of made a game for myself. I made a game that was numbers focused, that was very difficult to play. The tutorial was not great. In my next game, I'm really trying to focus on a few things. I want to shoot for a casual small game. I want to make it more attainable. I want to make it more intuitive. Something that you can pick up and start playing and you don't really need a tutorial to play. I don't know if I'm there yet. I tend to overthink things and I tend to build complex systems for the sake of building a complex system, but I'm gonna try to make my next game a little easier to understand. Anyway, if you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing so that you can stay up to date on all the things that I'm doing with game development. I'll see you in the next video.